Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a brand new season of the Lyons Den Quiz League. This video is going to be going out probably not that long after the video for the Season 3 Championship because of how late that one went out. But after a break of a few weeks, we are here for season number 4 and very glad to be back. So the quizzes for this week look like this. I guess, what I'll do is just move my face cam down here so it's not getting in the way of anything. But this is what the standings look for so far for week 1 with a few hours to go until the deadline. I'm assuming it's going to work the same way as last season, so the top 20 players after the first 5 weeks will qualify for the championship. So all I need to do is be top 20, which I think should be quite doable. But we will see how I fare on the quizzes today. Starting with I Hope You Were Curious 3, which is all about questions that are all about, well, they kind of spur off of questions that we've seen in previous seasons. Question number 1, we asked about authors who use artificial constraints in their work. Another common constraint is the N+7 technique, in which every noun in a piece of text is modified in what way to produce a final piece. Now, I'm not totally sure, but I have a guess at least for what's going on. So the question is rewritten below using this technique, and so every noun is just moved, and you can see week becomes weightlifter, so WEE becomes WEI, authors becomes autobiographies consistently because it's here and it's also down here. And again, those words are very close alphabetically, but the second one is a little bit further down the alphabet than the first one. So I'm figuring +7 is just like, I'm trying to figure out a way to phrase this, but like moved like 7 nouns forward in the dictionary is like, I figure what's happening, because like they're all still nouns and they're all just a little bit further forward, and I figure that must be what the +7 means, but I could be wrong. It just seems like it makes sense, so I'm going to go with that. Question 2. We asked about the agonic line, where the magnetic field's north pole is the same as the geographic north pole. And the magnetic field is weakened by almost 10% over the past 200 years, possibly indicating that what event is coming. I believe this is a reversal of the magnetic field, as in it is going to like flip north to south, which I think is a thing that happens. I've heard of the magnetic field reversing, so that's probably what's going on here. Question 3, we asked about an Olympian who qualified for the women's halfpipe without having the skill of her competitors. Her Olympic performance occurred in what county, which hosted the Games in 2018? I was not aware that South Korea had subnational entities called counties, so I'm going to assume that they mean country, and I'm going to say South Korea. And I'm going to hope that the answer isn't Gangwon-do, but I have to assume that what they mean is country because, again, I don't know of any counties in South Korea. But it was, of course, hosted in Pyeongchang. Question number 4 in the week 4 quiz. What are you talking about? We asked about the scene in Scary Movie 4, where a woman converses in fake Japanese with a baby's ghost. This plot line is based on another horror film set in Japan. I have literally no clue. Title refers to a powerful curse. Literally just name a horror movie. I don't like horror movies generally, so I don't watch them, and I don't know anything about them. But I'm going to try Babadook, because I think that is a horror movie that exists. And that's all I have to say on that matter. There's no way I'm getting this question. Question 5. In the week 4 quiz, A Roller Coaster of Emotions, we talked about Oktoberfest. Apparently the Theresienwiese, or however you say that, plays host to many other events, including the Old Timer Treffen, which is a meeting of what things? This is really confusing to me. This question I thought about for a long time, and I came up with an answer that I feel like is maybe reasonable, but it was so confusing to me because like a meeting of what things is such a weird way of phrasing this, because I'm figuring this is like some kind of festival, but I'm thinking like music festival, movie festival, like food festival, but like a meeting of movies or a meeting of music like doesn't make sense. Like the phrasing makes no sense. A meeting sounds like something humans would do, but humans wouldn't be referred to as things, so it's like they're not going to be humans. So what's going on? And I finally thought of cars, which I thought like a meeting of cars at least makes some sense, I think. Like since cars can move, it makes more sense that they would like meet in a place. Whereas again, movies, food, music, like flowers, whatever else you would have at a festival, those don't really meet. So this is the only reasonable answer I can think of, but I have no idea what this is talking about. Like, I've never heard of this festival. But anyway, after a lot of thinking and just being frustrated about this question, this is the best answer that I came up with. Finally, question 6. Mother Teresa, her supporters point to her canonization as a saint, as, supporting her legacy. 2 instances of what events have to be proven for a person to become a saint. Again, not really sure what's going on, but the best thing that I came up with, which I think is reasonable, is miracles, which is like, it makes sense that you'd have to perform miracles, although the idea of proving a miracle seems dubious. I don't know how you would prove such a thing. I don't know what the strict definition of miracle is, but it seems like that's something a saint maybe would have to do. Anyway, it's the best thing that I could come up with. So, as for the enhancing, 1 seems kind of obvious if it's even the answer. 3 is too easy, although unless county throws people off. 4 is wrong. 5 is quite possibly wrong as well. 6, I don't know how I feel about really any of these answers. I mean, I think the ones I have right are not that hard, but I might go with number 2. Like, maybe this isn't that well known, but it might be. I don't know. I just don't feel good enough about most of the rest of my answers here. So I'm going to try and I'm going to enhance number 2, even if it's not going to give me all that many points. And we will see if that is the right thing for me to be doing here. I mean, we have car meta here. We have a visible Google car. Like, does that count? It looks like a car to me. Okay, whatever. Maybe the Google car did count as a car. I'll go with that. Dude, you gotta be kidding me. I'm trying to, like, spend this time not doing captchas. Miracles, cars. Wow. Wow. Okay, that is as well as that could have gone. The Grudge, I've never heard of that movie in my life, and the rest I actually got right, which is crazy. Cars was a total punt. I mean, it made sense, like cars meeting, like again, like I mean, I already explained it, but it just, I hadn't heard of the thing, so it's not like I was ever going to be confident that that was actually the answer. But everything else, I think, is correct. Yeah, flipping, reversal, I mean, that's the same thing. Oh, wait, never mind. This was wrong. So Pyeongchang, I thought that was a city. Wait. Maybe I should have asked in the Discord to, like, clarify. See, now I look like an idiot. But maybe I should have asked in the Discord to clarify that wasn't a typo, but I thought it was supposed to say country because I thought Pyeongchang was, like, a city. Like, apparently South Korea has counties. They must be second-level subdivisions. But, like, that seems like obscure knowledge. I just thought... I thought it was supposed to say country. I don't know. Apparently Pyeongchang is a county. Good to know. But since it's labeled on the Google Maps map, just like cities are labeled, I figured it was just a city. I don't know. Okay, that's tough. Well, that's 4 out of 6, not 5 out of 6, so never mind. But bit of a weird question, that one, honestly, but that's fine. I hate the fact that this GIF is going to be on screen while I'm doing this because I find it really unsettling, but anyway, I'm going to try not to look at it. Question 1, and sorry if it distracts you as it distracts me, but question 1, Thomas Kershaw, the owner of a bar in Boston, was paid $1 so they could use the bar's name in the title of what show. This should be Cheers. Cheers is very famously, I think, set in Boston, and then really didn't, like, Everybody Knows Your Name is like the lyrics to the theme song for Cheers. So I think that's a pretty easy question. I mean, if I know a TV question, it probably isn't very hard. Question 2, in set theory, vertical bars around a set indicates cardinality. Cardinality quite simply refers to the number of elements in a set, at least for a non-infinite set. So the cardinality of a set with 5 elements is just 5. Question 3. This very unsettling GIF is a piece of chocolate. I mean, it's got milk chocolate in it. It's filled with phyllo pastry and a cream based on what ingredient? I mean, I don't know, but it's green, and I associate phyllo dough with like baklava, which is a famous dessert that has like pistachios in it. So I kind of immediately thought, when I saw phyllo, I kind of immediately thought of pistachios, and given the green hue of the cream, I think pistachio makes sense. So I'm just going to guess pistachio and hopefully scroll down far enough that I don't have to look at this anymore, because it's just bugging me. Question 4, the term for a contour line that delineates areas of equivalent pressure is called an isobar, and then an isotherm is the same thing for temperature, so iso would be the prefix. Question 5, I have literally no idea what's going on. Blank improperly obstructed an FBI investigation entry into the headquarters of the DNC. A couple guys I've never heard of, whose name fills in the blank. This is a disbarment case. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna go with like George Santos because like I don't know. Seems like the type of guy who would weasel his way into something and then get found out. But I don't think this is right. But I just have no clue what this question is referring to, so I'm just going to go ahead and guess that and move on. I at least know that Santos is from New York, or maybe he's lying about that too, who knows. Question 6, what word, which nowadays has more crude connotations, originally referred to non-Greek speakers and derives from a Latin onomatopoeia? This is barbarian, I think. I remember learning about this in like history of ancient Greece classes and stuff in college. They talked about how that's where the word barbarian came from. Greeks referred to foreigners as barbarians, which of course now has more of a negative connotation than it used to. So that is what I'm going with. And then as for what to enhance, cheers is too easy. I really think 2 is not that hard either, but I'm not so sure. I feel like I'm going to go with 6 because I feel like that's not necessarily common knowledge. It's gettable, I think, but it's not that obvious if you've never heard of the etymology, and I think it's pretty hard to guess from nothing. So I will enhance number 6, and hopefully I get 5 out of 6 here. I'm not sure about pistachio. I feel pretty good about the rest, other than, of course, number 5. So we shall see. Does that count? Yeah, we'll count it. All right, surely it's that. Nice. Barbarian, Richard Nixon. Okay. 5 is correct. Pistachio. Okay, so it is 5 out of 6. Nixon, it's probably talking about Watergate, I guess, but I don't really know anything about Watergate, to be honest, or at least the specifics of what happened. So presumably it was adjacent to that, but I didn't. Nothing mentioned to the question rang any sort of bell for me. So we will move to quiz number 3. We're 13 minutes in, doing fine. In the musical Rent, this is the pop culture quiz, by the way, the song I'll Cover You is framed as a gleeful tune sung by some people. In the musical's second act, the song is reprised and reframed as Collins sings the song after Angel dies of what disease? I've never seen Rent. I have seen La Boheme, however, and I know that Rent is based off of La Boheme. So presumably, assuming the disease is the same across the two shows, Mimi dies of tuberculosis in La Boheme. So presumably Angel dies of tuberculosis in Rent. Question 2. The company Reprise Records was founded by Frank Sinatra. It counted among its ranks what band, whose song Before the Lobotomy from their album 21st Century Breakdown, etc., etc. 21st Century Breakdown is an album by Green Day. Green Day is a band that is local to where I'm from, and they're pretty good. So yeah, Green Day is the answer there. Question 3. This is the one that gave me the most trouble on this quiz. Again, this is weirdly good for me as far as pop culture quizzes go, because again, I normally don't do well with them, but this one just is going well for me. This is the one that took me the longest, because I was just kind of thinking through things and wasn't thinking of much, but I eventually landed on Aladdin, which I think makes a lot of sense, because, I mean, I had the idea that it could be like a Disney movie, because I don't know, just like a movie with a villain with some kind of cliche-sounding song is like kind of a Disney thing, I guess. So I was thinking about Disney films that could have a protagonist disguising his poor upbringing, and I'm pretty sure Aladdin disguises himself as like a prince or something. I haven't seen Aladdin in a long, long time, but I think that's roughly the plot. So I think Aladdin makes a lot of sense, and I didn't think of anything else that was reasonable. So I'm going with that. Question number 4. Failed uprising against the government of Panem led to the creation of what yearly event? This is the Hunger Games, Panem being the name of the fictional country from the Hunger Games books and movies. Question 5. George Carlin is best known for a routine which led to a Supreme Court case. And it was based on around a group of 7 of what things? I believe they are called 7 dirty words. This is something that I hadn't heard of before, and someone was like, "How have you not heard of this thing?" So now I've heard of it. But this is apparently a routine. I've never seen it, or I don't know what it consists of. But these 7 dirty words is just like a famous thing. I think it's dirty. I hope it's not like bad words or unforgivable words or something. But I think it's called 7 dirty words. And then finally, question 6. In the 2000 movie that won the Academy Award for Best Picture, formerly powerful man takes up what profession after the leader of his country is killed and he's sentenced to slavery, and then he gets revenge on the man who ruined him. This is Gladiator. Yeah, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, etc. Excellent movie, by the way. I saw it for the first time, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and it was good. Highly recommend. Makes sense that it won Best Picture. Anyway, so that's this quiz. I think there's a good chance I have 6 out of 6 on this, which is, again, just kind of weird and unusual for a pop culture quiz, but I'm happy with how this one has gone. We have a decision to make on what to enhance. I think Aladdin is probably pretty easy. Hunger Games is pretty easy. Gladiator, I think, is pretty gettable. Dirty words. I feel like I go with Green Day just because, like, I don't know. I mean, I know Green Day is a famous band, but also, like, they're local, so maybe I'm a little biased. And, like, knowing the name of a Green Day album is probably not something that's very trivial for a lot of people, so that's probably the best one here. Although maybe Tuberculosis isn't very well known either. I don't know how familiar people are with Rent and La Boheme, but I'm just going to go with the Green Day question. And we will see. HIV. Oh. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, Dirty Words is correct. Gladiator, Hunger Games. Okay, 5 out of 6 again. Well, apparently Rent changed it, which... it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that it's different. I mean, the names of the characters are different. A lot of the things are different, and it's set in a different time. So it makes sense that the person would be dying of a different disease. But unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Rent, so I kind of had to just go with the La Boheme answer and hope it was the same. But it wasn't. So I'm kind of glad I didn't enhance that. But we will move to question 4, which is all about pictures of currency. This one is quite fun. Number 1. Four most recent iterations of a series designed to highlight native wildlife. These are clearly Canadian dollar coins. The problem is I am not very familiar with Canadian currency, so this is a bit of a tough question for me. An animal of the genus Gavia. I've never heard of Gavia, and I spent some time thinking about what it could be, and I didn't come up with anything. So I'm kind of just stuck here. I thought maybe like a bobcat could be reasonable. I was trying to think of like quintessentially Canadian animals. I think 22 is a fox rather than a bobcat, so I don't see a bobcat here, so the answer could be bobcat. I also thought of like polar bear, but that's like Ursus maritimus or whatever. I don't think that's Gavia, so bobcat is the best thing I'm going to come up with here. Although, to be fair, I don't even know what the rest of these animals are, so I'm a little bit worried that this is going to be something that I just am never going to get. Anyway, question 2. This currency, which became official in April 2024, is from what country? I wasn't sure about this one for a second because, like, it wasn't that obvious what I was looking at. I've seen the, like, meme picture of the, like, $100 trillion bill from Zimbabwe, because that's, like... It's that example that every economics professor is like, yo, look what happens when inflation goes crazy, and they show you a picture of a $100 trillion bill from Zimbabwe. And it does say Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe on that bill, so I was like, maybe this could be Zimbabwe, but I wasn't sure until I realized there's a bird in the top left and top right here of the bill, and that's that same like soapstone bird that's featured on the flag of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe bird or whatever. So that gave me a little more confidence that this was indeed going to be Zimbabwe. Question number 3. The lower image depicts an operation run by what company? So this is clearly Malaysia. We have Malaysia written on the left side of the top bill. So I was like, okay, the bottom thing is an oil rig in the ocean, and like, what's an oil company that's associated with Malaysia? It would surely be Petronas, because that's the namesake of the two twin towers in Kuala Lumpur, and a very famous, very large oil company. So that should be the answer there. Question 4, the design for this national side was inspired by what ancient currency? This is clearly Greek. We have the Greek lettering spelling out euro. So the ancient currency of Greece is the drachma, which I think plenty of people will probably know just because of, I don't know, its significance in mythology and, I don't know, Percy Jackson. And also the fact that Greece was thinking of going back to the drachma after all the euro stuff that happened there. The unstable economy, etc. Question 5, which bird, which shares its name with the currency, is depicted on the coin? The currency of Guatemala is called the quetzal, but I mean, it's just a famous bird anyway in Central America. Like when we were in Costa Rica, they were all like, oh my god, like how cool it would be if we see a quetzal, which is like a super like beautiful, vibrant, colorful bird. But Guatemala has the bird on its flag, and it also has a currency named after the bird. And then finally, question 6. I don't know what the hell's going on here. This is just video game fictional currencies. But I was thinking for a while about, what video games could this be? Because obviously I won't have played whatever it is. But I looked at the first one and I realized the font looks a lot like the font from Fortnite. Like something about the V being like uneven or something. Like I'm just like picturing the word Fortnite written in like the font of the game or whatever. And that looks very like it to me, that V. So I thought maybe this could be Fortnite currency, although I've never played Fortnite in my life and never will. But, we'll see. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I have no idea what the one on the right is. But I am going to go ahead and submit this. I don't feel particularly good about question 1, but the rest I think is solid. As for what to enhance, maybe the quetzal, just because it's not... I feel like that's not super well known. But I mean, we'll see based on the score whether it is well known or not. Okay, that was wrong apparently. Tough. It's there but not there. There's a little bit of white there. I'm just gonna go with that. Okay. Fortnite is correct. Nice. Quetzal, Zimbabwe, Petronas, Drachma, Loon. Wow, what the heck? Okay, that's hard. That seems so random. Is a loon like a really famously Canadian thing? Maybe it is, but like that, I was never going to get that. But the rest was good. Happy with my reasoning on those questions. 5 out of 6 once again. And here we go to quiz number 5. The world's most polluted city in 2023 was Begusarai, a city in what Indian state? That is between Uttar Pradesh and Jharkhand. And it's in an alluvial plain formed by the Ganges. So, like, this was a little weird for me because, like, in my head, like, Uttar Pradesh and Jharkhand are, like, diagonal to each other. So, like, the idea of something being between Uttar Pradesh and Jharkhand was kind of weird because it was, like, there's either Bihar, which is, like, east of UP and north of Jharkhand, or there's, like, Chhattisgarh, which is, like, west of Jharkhand and south of UP. So, like... neither of them is really like between them in my head, but also like an alluvial plain like by the Ganges. I think the Ganges goes through Bihar because it's like Bihar is like really flat and also super populous. So I think most of the rivers are in Bihar. So I think Bihar makes more sense as an answer here, but I'm actually not 100% sure that this is right. A lot of talking. Question 2, an oil pipeline proposed by the company Transneft was opposed by activist groups due to the threat of pollution to what body of water? It is not in China, but there was a Chinese company dumping waste into it, and it has a total volume of a lot of water. So my thought here, I mean, Transneft, like, I think neft is like a Russian word for like maybe oil or like petroleum or energy or something. Because I feel like neft shows up in like Russian like town names and company names and stuff, and I'm not really sure why, but I associate neft with like oil, and I'm not I'm honestly not sure why that is, but I think it might be the Russian word for oil, or at least close to it. So anyway, my thought here was, if it is Russia, it's surely Lake Baikal, because this lake has a ton of volume, and if it's anywhere near China, then, I mean, the only lake in Russia that would have that much water in it is surely Baikal, because it's not going to be like Ladoga or something. So I figure Baikal just makes the most sense here. It might not be in Russia, but again, this, for whatever reason, this company name sounds Russian to me, and maybe that's just because I associate neft with oil or with Russian. To be honest, it's one of those things that is like, it's like in the depths of my head, and it's like, it makes sense to me, but I can't really explain why. It's like I just kind of associate this thing with this thing, and I don't really know why I do. Anyway, I'm explaining too much anyway, but like, that's it. It kind of just makes sense in my head, and I can't really give you guys a good explanation for why that is. Okay, question 3. To draw attention to high levels of industrial waste pollution, artist Nicolas Garcia Uriburu released green dye into the Matanza, a tributary of what larger and much wider river. My thought here was that this could be the Rio de la Plata. This is a guess, and I know there's supposed to be an accent here, but I don't have accents on this keyboard, forgive me. Anyway, I was trying to think of what's like a river or gulf or marginal sea. Like, what's a thing that's like A, in a Spanish-speaking part of the world, and B, like debatably like what it is. The first thing I thought of was like Lake Maracaibo, because it's like, oh, it's not actually a lake, it's like a gulf or an estuary or whatever. It's not an estuary, but you know what I mean. But that didn't make sense, because it's like, the question is asking about a river. And so the only other thing I thought of in like Latin America that made any sense was the Rio de la Plata, which is that estuary between like Montevideo and Buenos Aires, which makes sense because it's called Rio, which means river, but also like it's super wide and is kind of more of a gulf or marginal sea, depending on who you ask, I guess. So that's kind of just the thing that makes the most sense in my head. And there's not really anything else in South America or Spain or anywhere else that makes sense to me. Question 4. I'm explaining too much. A Symphony of Lights nightly laser show over what city's Victoria Harbor? This surely is Hong Kong. I mean, Sim Sha Tsui sounds super Hong Kong, and also like Victoria, you know, something with Chinese names, tall buildings, and things named after British royals. Like, surely we're talking about Hong Kong. Question 5. Marine garbage patches, such as the Great Pacific Trash Vortex, are formed due to systems of circulating currents, referred to as what? The Gulf Stream is part of the North Atlantic one of these systems. And then there's some clues down here, and I figured out eventually what was going on here. My first thought was doldrums, because I think doldrums are like a thing like near the equator where ships get stuck in like some sort of vortex thing. So that was like my thought. But then I was looking at the clues down here, this turning and this gimbal thing, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is surely like quoting something, trying to get me to figure this out. And then I remembered there's a line, I think it's like a Yeats poem, I think it's like The Second Coming, where it says like turning in the widening gyre or something. And I realized, wait, could gyre be a thing? Because gyre sounds like it could be something circulating. And then I realized, wait, North Atlantic gyre maybe is a phrase that rings a bell, although I might be making that up. Maybe I haven't heard that, and it just is like I'm trying to like justify why my answer is right, and I'm making things up. But like turning rang a bell just from my days of like literature quiz bowl questions and stuff, studying poems and things like that. That's just kind of a famous line from a famous poem. And I figured, wait a second, that might be what's going on here. And a gyre sounds like it could be a thing. So anyway, whoever wrote, I don't know if who is this? Is it Benny or Looney writing this one? This one is Looney, but yeah, I don't know. As another person who's good at quiz bowl and literature in quiz bowl, I think it makes sense that he would clue something like that from a poem, because that's a famous poem that has it has like the slouching towards Bethlehem and things fall apart and stuff. There's a lot of like famous lines that come from that poem, if I'm thinking of the right one, which I think I am. Anyway, shut up. I am talking way too much. Question number 6. Due to an event in mid-April 2010 that scientists only had about 2 months warning for, a landmark, helped reduce global CO2 emissions by a lot. Or maybe that's a little. I don't actually know how much that is, but it sounds like a lot. Anyway, name the country it is in or name the landmark itself, sometimes referred to as E15. I figure this is probably the volcanic eruption that happened in Iceland. I know how to spell it, but it makes me sad that I can't type accents on this computer because, like, I don't know. I'm just being stupid, but I'm just going to write it without the accent and just go with that. I promise I know there's a thing over the O. Don't come after me. But anyway, yeah, this is... I shouldn't attempt to pronounce it. I think it's like Eyjafjallajökull or something, is close. But anyway, it's the volcano in Iceland that blew up in 2010, and there were like a crap ton of flights that couldn't go through, and it messed up everything. Oh my god, I'm yapping so much today. I don't know why this is. Maybe I'm higher energy than normal and I'm just talking too much. But anyway, I feel... I don't know. Like, I'm not positive that Baikal is correct. I'm honestly not sure that Bihar is correct either. Rio de la Plata is a decent option for enhancing, but I feel like I might go with Gyre because I feel like, again, that earth science stuff, it's not... I feel like that's not super obvious, and the poem clue is also not very obvious. It's just something I happen to pick up on. So, given you're allowed to just say Iceland for this, I'm not going to enhance 6. 4 is way too easy. 3, I think, is the other one that seems decent, but I'm also not totally sure that 3 is right, so I would prefer 5. I think it makes a little more sense here. Okay, buses. Is that a bus? Looks more like an RV or something. All right. Gyre is good. Hong Kong, Rio de la Plata, 6 out of 6. Beautiful. Okay, so it wasn't Chhattisgarh, thankfully. It wasn't doldrums or anything silly like that. So 6 out of 6, and beautiful. Let's go to quiz 6. Oh my gosh, my throat's getting sore. I'm talking way too much. Question 1. Things Benny learned in college. That is the theme of this quiz, and this is quite a hard quiz. Yeah, especially because I didn't study science or engineering. Question number 1. We spent part of this class discussing resonance, blah, blah, blah. This molecule is C6H6, which is just benzene. That is, I think, almost certainly the easiest question on this quiz. Question number 2, mechanical engineering, in this awful class. Anyway, and then there's a bunch of nonsense about... Yeah, I mean, we're talking about manufactured parts, and we're talking about a characteristic of a part, which measures how close its actual center is to its theoretical center. So it's like a measure of error, almost, in terms of manufacturing. The only good answer I could think of for this was like concentric, or like concentricity, I guess maybe is a word. Which I think makes sense. I mean, it's saying the 2 circles shown have this characteristic. These are definitely concentric circles. So maybe this is a thing, but it could also be any other word that means something similar. So we'll see, but that's the best guess that I have. Question number 3, physics. We spent most of our time learning about waves and their behavior. Multiplying a wave's wavelength and the frequency gives what property of the wave. So the thing that I know about waves is that the wavelength and the frequency are like inversely related to each other. If you think about like the visible light spectrum, it's like purple has like high frequency and low wavelength, and red has high wavelength and low frequency. So it's like they're inversely related. And if you think about what's going on here, I mean, the distance between the peaks of a wave and the number of peaks per second, not only are they inversely related, but they're like perfectly inversely related. Like if you double the distance between the peaks of a wave, you're going to be having the number of peaks that you get in a certain fixed period of time. So what that told me is that like if you multiply the wavelength and the frequency together, you should get like a fixed like constant number, because it's like if the wavelength goes up then the frequency goes down, you multiply them together, it's the same thing. So I figured that, wait, we're just talking about like the speed of light, right? If we're talking about a light wave, for example, presumably it's just, I mean, if I'm thinking about some kind of constant property that a wave has, it's like the speed of a light wave. It makes sense that frequency times wavelength would equal something constant like that. So anyway, I'm figuring this is just something like speed. And, you know, it doesn't, we're not necessarily talking about light waves. So like for a light wave, it would probably be the speed of light, but for any wave, it's just the speed. Maybe the word is velocity. I don't know, but I feel like speed is probably fine. Like, I don't know what the technical term is to refer to the speed of a wave, but it might be velocity, but surely I get credit for either one. But this, I think, makes sense. I'm not totally sure, but I'm just thinking of, like, you know, what for a wave would be constant and what makes sense. I was thinking about something like amplitude or period, but those things change. Like, if you change the frequency, like, it wouldn't. I thought about it in my head, and it doesn't make sense that you would multiply wavelength and frequency to get amplitude or period, because, like, if you're changing those things, the amplitude and period are going to be changing. They're not going to be staying the same. So anyway, that's kind of my thought process on that question. Question number 4, class focused on group theory. Binary relation must have what property, which says that this for group elements A, B, and C. This is the associative property, I believe, or associativity. Not to be confused with like commutativity or any of the other math properties, but the associative, I always remember the associative property as like the one with the parentheses. So like if you move the parentheses around, it like does the same thing. So A times B times C equals A times B times C. And I know this isn't necessarily multiplication. I mean, multiplication is associative, but also like this is for any arbitrary operation with this property, but associativity should be the answer here. Question 5. I don't know anything about computer science, so this is a tough one for me. But a language designed to be easy for computers to interpret instead of being easy for humans to use. That must have been fun. Anyway, C makes heavy use of what variables, which store the memory address of a variable instead of storing its value. They get their name because they direct the computer to the place in memory where a variable's value can be found. So I thought, like, I was trying to think of like, I'm like, I don't know anything about comp sci. I don't know like the names of variables and stuff. So this was just going to be hard for me. I thought of an answer and I now forgot what my answer was. I just came up with a word that was like, I think guide was the word that I came up with, like a guide variable, like it guides the computer to the place in the memory. Like, I don't know, I'm just making up a word that means directing the computer to a place in the memory, but I have no idea what's going on in this question, and I probably won't have heard of the answer. So I will go to question 6, which is even harder, or even more just like what is going on. Don Norman's foundational book, The Design of Everyday Things. Norman lends his name to a type of what infrastructural features that are particularly, or some of them are particularly confusing to use, and they're named after him because he uses them as a case study. Again, I have no clue what's happening here. Like, I was just like infrastructural features. I'm just like, okay, what's a thing you would put in like a building or something? I thought of like windows, maybe. Like, you could have windows that are confusing to use, like hard to open or something. But like, again, I thought about some possible answers here. I was thinking about like doors and walls, and I like I don't know. Like, this is just, I don't know what's going on in this question, and I feel like if you haven't heard of like Norman and whatever's happening here, you just probably don't stand too much of a chance with this question, because it's just, I think this is just a very difficult one. So again, after more yapping than was probably necessary, I will enhance. Benzene's too easy. I think I'm going to enhance. I think 4 is the only reasonable one, because 2, 5, and 6 are probably all wrong, or at least there's a good chance that all of them are wrong. And then I think 3 is maybe okay, but it's probably pretty gettable, and I think 1 is a little too easy. So 4 is what I'm going to go with, and hope that people don't remember their mathematical properties. And we will see how I do on this, but this feels like probably my worst quiz of the week, and almost certainly the hardest too. It certainly felt like the hardest. It's definitely not an easy quiz. No way. Are you kidding me? Pointer variables, velocity. Okay, so concentricity is correct. I'm happy with that. I mean, it's 2 circles with this property. It's like, okay, yeah, they are concentric circles, but wasn't sure that would be right. Associativity is right. So hopefully speed is correct. I mean, I'm a little worried that maybe speed and velocity actually refer to like different things. maybe it would have been smarter for me to just go with the more scientific word rather than just saying speed. But it's because of speed of light. Like speed of light, you say speed of light, you don't say velocity of light. So I just thought like if it's the speed of light, then it's just the speed of the wave. But I hope that doesn't come back to bite me, but we'll see how strict they are with the grading on that one. Pointer variables may be guessable, but again, I don't think I've heard of that. And then I literally said doors. No way. I mean, a door that's hard to use, that makes just as much sense as a window. I mean, I was just guessing something. It's kind of sad that I got that close because I just didn't know what was happening. But yeah, a door is also an infrastructural element. That's unlucky, but I tried. Okay, so that's either 3 out of 4, or 3 or 4 out of 6, which honestly is fine for that quiz because, like I said, that was quite difficult. Finally, we have a history quiz about things that should not have happened or weren't supposed to happen. The HMS Brilliant torpedoed 3 submarines, except they were whales, which is kind of tough for the whales, honestly, and for everyone involved. But the ship was involved in what conflict? So HMS is like Her Majesty's something. I don't know what the S, like Her Majesty's ship maybe, but I know it's like a British thing, like HMS Titanic, etc. So I figure we're talking about like the UK and like what's a conflict the UK was in the 80s. The only thing I can think of is the Falklands War, where they were fighting with Argentina, which I think makes a lot of sense. And then stick it up your junta. I mean, junta, I feel like junta is a word that you can use to describe things in any country, but it is a Spanish word that, you know, probably originated in like Latin America, so it makes sense that if it's talking about Argentina. So I will go with the Falklands War for this one. American Civil War general shot by his own troops, leading to his death from pneumonia. His most well-known nickname references his hardiness. So I don't know, a Civil War general named for his hardiness is probably Stonewall Jackson. I mean, Stonewall sounds pretty hardy to me. I didn't know that's how he died, but that's kind of an interesting fact. But I would guess it's probably Stonewall Jackson. Question 3, historian Kazuo Kawai suggested that in Kantaro Suzuki's response to the Potsdam Declaration, his use of the Japanese word mokusatsu was misinterpreted as being an act of aggression. And he concludes that his botched translation had the greatest negative impact on what 2 cities? I wonder if this isn't the answer, I would be shocked. It seems pretty obvious, but it's like, yeah, I mean, we're clearly in Japan, and negative impact about is something we're talking about war in 2 cities. I mean, it's just going to be Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Question 4, British Army's attack on what kingdom at the Battle of Isandlwana? The Battle of Isandlwana was the British and the Zulu. It's kind of a famous thing where the British lost to the Zulu army. Question 5, a 14-year-old boy from what country was arrested and sent to a detainment camp after unintentionally burning down a royal celebration arch? He and his acquaintances were charged with violating this country's Article 112, one of the strictest lèse-majesté laws in the world. I have no idea what that means. It looks like French to me, which made me think, like, are we in a French-speaking country? And I was like, is it France? Is it Belgium? Or is it like something in Africa? But like sent to detainment camp, like maybe I'm just being silly, but that doesn't sound like, I feel like there's no way to say this without sounding weird, but like that doesn't sound to me like a thing that a European country would do. Like I don't know. I feel like you don't hear about, I feel like France wouldn't be like, hello 14-year-old, go to detainment camp. It just sounds harsh to me, but maybe I'm misinterpreting what detainment camp is, but I'm figuring this might be a country that's more authoritarian. And it also says royal celebration arch, so it's like, okay, this is like probably a place with like a monarchy or something. So that kind of threw a wrench in things, because I was like, is this not a French-speaking country? Like, what's going on? What's a country that would have like royals and that would also punish people harshly? And this sounds so weird when I'm saying it, but like this is just kind of what my thought process was. So I kind of abandoned the idea of it being a French-speaking country, because like like les majestés, like that's clearly just a term, and it's clearly from French, but it's just a term describing a law, so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're talking about a French-speaking country. So I was like, forget the French thing. I'm just going to go with a country that is like authoritarian and would punish people harshly for things, and my thought was maybe something like Saudi Arabia. This is a lot of talking for what is almost certainly the wrong answer, but this is not something I feel like I'm going to be able to get correct without just knowing what this is, because like I've never heard of this, and it just seems like there's not a lot of helpful information here other than like royal and strict laws. So yeah, Saudi Arabia it is, but we will see. And question 6, finally, in Terry Pratchett's novel Monstrous Regiment, Commander Sam Vimes tries to stand in support of the war-torn nation of Borogravia, using its native language to claim, I am a citizen of Borogravia, which to me sounds a lot like Ich bin ein Berliner, which is that famous John F. Kennedy speech. Four-word phrase from a real historical speech. Checks out. I mean, as soon as I read this, I immediately thought of Ich bin ein Berliner, so I think it just makes the most sense. So that's what I'm going with. And finally, as for what to enhance, I'm not sure. 3 is too easy. 4, I don't know. 4 seems maybe a little too easy, but I'm not sure. 5 is probably wrong. I wonder... It's about like what the audience of this quiz is. I mean, there are some Americans playing this, and they will probably know Stonewall Jackson. There are some Europeans playing this, and they will probably know Ich bin ein Berliner. It's kind of about, you know, what's the split here between European and American players. I think I might enhance number 2. Just like, I don't know, how famous is Stonewall Jackson like outside of the US? I'm really not sure, but I think I'm just gonna go with that. Maybe it's a mistake, but we'll see. Okay, stairs. Those look like stairs, but they might also be like houses or something, but I'll click it. Those are stairs, sure. Ich bin ein Berliner, blah, blah, blah. Thailand. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Thailand has a king, or a monarch at least, so it makes a lot of sense. But again, that could really have been anything, so don't feel bad about that one at all, and the rest is correct. So another 5 out of 6, very, very solid, and quite happy, I think, with the performance overall. I will pause the recording, and hopefully the scores come in earlier than like 2 hours from now when the deadline is, but we'll see when the scores get updated. But yeah, anyway, I will see you guys soon, and we will see how I did on the quizzes overall. Alrighty, so my scores are in, and I finished in 3rd place for this week. I mean, who knows, maybe that won't hold because there are a few more people who haven't played. There's still 2 hours until the deadline. But very, very solid score for week number 1. Super happy with that. A couple of questions maybe I could have picked up on, but I think for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how it went, and the ones that I missed mostly were ones that I probably wasn't going to get. So did they give me credit for the... Yes, I think they gave me credit for saying the speed of a wave, so that is good. They did not give me credit for Pyeongchang, for South Korea, nor should they have. But yeah, that one, a bit unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, today I learned Pyeongchang is a county, so I guess you learn something new every day. I really thought it was just a typo, but yeah, that was fun. Thank you all for participating, watching, and possibly participating. If you are one of the at least 68 people who played this week, thank you all for the participation. The league could not happen without you, and thank you, of course, Looney and Benny, for putting together these amazing quizzes, as they always do. Yeah, obviously would not be possible without them, so legends, thank you so much, and I will see you all next week. Until then.